Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the post-race show here on the Grueling Truth as the Snooze Fest 350 just got done in California, otherwise known as the Toyota Save Mart 350 if you didn't watch it because your eyes were closed. But we're going to break it down so that you don't have to go back and watch it if you recorded it. And joining me today, as my name is Ryan Peters, I also have a nice Spanish name there today that Joe never shows, but, that is what it is. Joining me to my right is Mr. Steve Risley, and then to the right of Steve is Mr. Joe Spilman. Gentlemen, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Ryan.
I'm dazed and confused.
Steve,
Ryan, there is
I was talking. I was talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done. My apologies. I thought you were done.
I am doing well, Ryan, now that damn race is over. And I had a couple minutes to do some things before the show. Go ahead, Steve.
I'm dazed and confused because there's just something odd about Joe that I can't place. He just looks different. And I don't know, did he get a haircut or something?
Actually, it's his evil twin that's joining us here today.
Is this his evil twin?
Yeah, he might rant more than the Joe Spilman that we know ourselves, but we shall see.
Well, I hope so, because that would be adding something to the show.
It's his last time to talk about the Fox broadcast package, so he probably has a lot to get off his chest. So,
yeah, where was our boy Boyer today? Did they fire him already?
He was gone due to personal reasons, but I think
you know what that is, don't you?
Yeah, he doesn't have a job or his wife's cheating on him, one of the two.
Or COVID, one of the three.
Well, before these guys start putting on headlines for the National Enquirer, we're going to go ahead and get this show started again. This is the NASCAR post-race show that we do every Sunday, that there is a Sunday afternoon race. And the Grueling Truth is brought to you by betting.net. Betting.net is your best place to find an online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. And if you, like myself, gambled this weekend on this race, I hope to God you didn't have any Joe Gibbs Racing cars. But, gentlemen, we'll go ahead and get into the first topic.
Hendrick.
Well, yes, and that too. But let's go ahead and get to the first topic. Steve, I will go to you for the hardest question of the day. Was the Toyota Save Mart 350 a good race?
Well, that's a yes/no question. I mean, it was good in some ways. At one point, there were 6 drivers in the top 6 that had not won a race yet. I thought that made it kind of exciting and enticing at the end to see, meaning, we possibly potentially could fill up another slot. We had some drivers that we hadn't seen up there in a while. I mean, Suarez, although he'd been running well, actually leading the race. I mean, Harvick's up there. Is it Chris? Who's the 14 car? Is it Busher? Chris Butcher?
Chase Briscoe.
Chase Briscoe. He was up there. I mean, there just were some. And Chastain, I think he was up there for a while. Then I think he got taken out by somebody, or he took himself out, something. But there were some guys that made it a compelling story for them to win, which was good. Other than that, it was as Joe said so eloquently, man, I stayed up till 5:30 in the morning the night before because I had to watch a couple movies. I wanted to get off, and then I just dove right into the F1 race because coverage out here started at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2:30. They had the pre-race, and I said, I'm going to watch all that so I can get my knowledge on F1 a little better, get ready for the day. And then I watched it, and then about 5:20, the F1 race was so boring. With 10 laps ago, I said, screw it. I've got it on tape. I'll watch the last 10 laps. Later, went to bed and woke up and slept right through the IndyCar race. Went to the NASCAR race, and about halfway through, I'm saying, why didn't I get up and watch the IndyCar race and just sleep through the NASCAR race? Because it was not a good race. It was not indicative of what road course racing is. And this makes a good argument for the people who think we should not do as much road course racing. And Joe, I'm sorry if you're falling asleep as I'm talking. I am done.
Well, Joe, now that you have your chance to talk and more than likely will rant something very intelligent, go ahead. Was today a good race?
No, it wasn't.
Sarcasm.
Oh, yeah. The only person that thought that was a good race today was Daniel Suarez, and congratulations to him.
For all of Mexico.
And all of Mexico. But here's the deal. I live in VV, Indiana, which is I could almost piss and hit Kentucky Speedway. And to watch that race today, knowing that there is no longer a race from my house, pisses me off because that was a snooze fest. It wasn't a good race. The last road course at Coda was a great race, I thought. I don't know what it was about today. There were certain things I'm sure we're going to get into today, but I wasn't happy with the race. One, Hendrick, Elliott, and Kyle Larson. The only reason why Kyle Larson doesn't win that race is because whoever's managing his pit stops are a bunch of damn dumbasses. And he essentially takes himself out of the race because he wants to get a stage win instead of winning the race. There's a whole bunch of things today that made that a bad race. Mainly, it turned into the follow the leader 350, the snooze fest 350, and for the first time in my life, I'm going to say the F1 race was more exciting than the Toyota Save Mart 350. It was.
Wow. So Joe dropping some straight fire on his typical rant.
You did a terrible job with course NASCAR. You never need to go back there again. That was the worst race I've ever seen in my damn life.
And if you're new to watching us, Joe is typically our host. And when Joe's not hosting, sometimes he gets a little spicy on our post-race shows. He even had a nice little Tourette's rant right before we got on air to try to make me not laugh and spit out my Diet Dr. Pepper. So, Joe, we appreciate your nice intro. I will say this. We won't get into it tonight. And if we decide, because the NASCAR week is off this week, to have a Wednesday show, I would like to go more into the strategy that Hendrick decided to use this week by going for stage wins versus race wins. So that's something we won't go in depth with tonight. We're just going to really break down the show, but it would be a good topic to table for Wednesday. Personally, I thought it was an awful race. I was surprised. Sonoma is one of my favorite tracks. It's typically a really, really good road course track. It was referred to as a short course or short track road course. And we typically see a lot of bumping, a lot of, bump and runs, moving the other guy. If you were in the top 10, you couldn't get to the bumper of the guy in front of you. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's a diffuser problem. I'm not really sure what was going on. And it's weird because most of our good tracks, we've had bad races. And then the ones we worry about, we've had tremendous races. So, something that NASCAR may need to look into going forward. And Joe thinks that we're in fifth grade. You have your hand up, sir. Go ahead.
Well, I didn't want to cut you off, Ryan, but I do now that Daniel Suarez won a NASCAR race by 5.8 seconds. 5.8 seconds. You know what Verstappen won the F1 race by today?
I have no idea.
7 seconds. We saw an F1 race in stock cars today. Yeah, we saw an F1 race in stock cars today. It was terrible.
Well, it was not a great race. And, it's kind of surprising, again, that we are to this point. I think it's by far the worst race since Martinsville, if you don't include the All-Star race, which, God forbid, you black hole that one in your memory. Let's go ahead and break down the top 10. It was Daniel Suarez getting his first ever win, followed by Chris Buescher, Michael McDowell, Kevin Harvick, Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, Mr. Elliott for the guy in the middle, William Byron, and then Brad Lowski. There you go, right there. And again, this is by far the most interesting 10 that I've ever seen in my entire life, especially the top 6 at point. But going on to the winning team and the winner, Daniel Suarez, I have a question for both of you. And Joe, I'll let you start first since Steve had the last one. Trackhouse Racing now 3 wins on the year. Are they now, if you give Joe Gibbs Racing and Hendrick Racing the 1-2 or 1A, 1B, is Trackhouse Racing now the third best team in NASCAR?
I'm going to say that they're the second best team in NASCAR. I'm gonna bump Joe Gibbs Racing third by percentage of wins and only having 2 drivers. Ross Chastain has been competitive all year. Daniel Suarez has really not had a bad year. I think he's been trying to find his way. Obviously, today he found his way a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to go with them. No, I'm going to stick to my guns on this. I'm going to say number 2. They're the real deal, and they're going to be around for a while. And they got 2 decent drivers. So, they add a third car to the mix next year, which I don't know if there's any plans right now, except running a part-time car next year. So
they're adding the World All-Star car.
Yeah, a part-time car, which I think will eventually turn into a full-time ride for somebody. So I think that's a gimmick to get that car out on the track. But I'm going to say this is a competitive team, and it's going to be around for a while. And Ross Chastain's the real deal. I think Daniel Suarez is going to be around for a while. He just got his first win, so and he's competed at the ovals as well. So I don't see them going anywhere in the near future.
Thanks, Joe. Steve, as you may not know, medical marijuana is not legal in the United States, but Joe said that Joe Gibbs Racing is now the 3rd best team in NASCAR. What do you have to say about Trackhouse Racing? Where would you put them?
I guess I would just start with saying win some championships and then come back and talk to me. 3 wins. Okay, that's good. They got a hot driver. And Suarez is developing into a good driver, but to say you're going to stack up against Harvick and SHR for the long haul and being a quality team. I mean, you got Penske in there. How many wins does Penske have? 2 or 3? All of by Logano. They got 3. Cindric's got 1.
2, and Cindric got 1.
Cindric has 1. So they're and that's a more quality team. They have championships under their belt. So I don't know that I'd say they're a really fun team to root for right now because they're up and coming and young and moving forward. So I don't know that I'd put them. I certainly think that it's 1A and 1B still with Gibbs and Hendrick. Just because they're having a little slump right now doesn't mean they've disintegrated as a team.
Yeah, and I think that it's actually a testament to where Trackhouse has been that we can even make that argument. And I'm with you, Steve. I think until you get a championship, you've got to put them, I think they're right there at 3. And, Daniel Suarez has the opportunity to run really good like he has this year. And it is good to see him get a win. But I think as this race and what I just read to you, Daniel Suarez, Chris Buescher, Michael McDowell, this race is going to be an anomaly at the end of the year. We're not going to see another top 3 like that until we go to a super speedway. Not to take anything away from Daniel Suarez, because Joe, you talked to it before about you think he had a really good shot of winning this week, the last time that we talked. And, that was a really good point. But I think what we've seen from Trackhouse Racing, and I wish I remember the guy's name, but the guy that started Trackhouse Racing that they did fundamentally began DEI, began Michael Walsh Racing, and now has started Trackhouse Racing from a boots on the ground standpoint. Not the money standpoint like Justin Marks, but boots on the ground. It's been amazing their turnaround that they've had in just their 2nd year. So, it's another great showing by Trackhouse Racing. And if at the very end of the day you had doubts about them, they're here to show you they're for real.
Well, remember, Ryan, the infrastructure was there from Ganassi Racing. I mean, they had an infrastructure to build upon, so they weren't starting from dead scratch and just, trying to learn how to build a car and build an engine or negotiating for parts or anything like that. And Ganassi was a winning organization as well too, and a good organization. So, yeah, I think they're right there, just a set of tires below Penske right now. But they're probably dead even if not even a little ahead of Stewart Haas. Stewart Haas is in trouble. But there still is word floating out there that Dodge is coming back to NASCAR and it's going to go with Stewart Haas. That's nothing more than a rumor flying around right now for silly season, but Stewart Haas is going to have to make some serious changes, or that team's going to fall apart pretty quickly. Tony is starting to enjoy the booth. Whether he spends more time there, I don't know, but So
the only thing I would say to kind of build upon the Chip Ganassi Racing is that they had Kyle Larson and Kurt Busch at really good points in their career.
And didn't win.
And I think Trackhouse Racing has already shown with Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez, out of all people,
Sure.
that they are doing a lot more than they could with those two. Joe, you've done a lot of nonverbal communication. Do you have a rebuttal that you would like to voice?
Yeah, have you noticed
Well,
that
I
too?
do.
Just a lot of nonverbal communication from
I
Joe
do.
today.
Well, as you know, guys, nonverbal communication makes up about 80% of all communication. But I'll say this: Brandon Murphy, obviously, to
Did
answer
your
your
wife
text,
tell you that?
it's Steve. No, and number two, Steve,
Not in
you
my
say
book.
that the you say that the infrastructure was there from Chip Ganassi Racing, but I kind of liken that to like if you wanted to buy the state of Indiana and you inherited the highway system here in the state of Indiana and the shape that the state roads are in. You can't drive from one end of the state to the other because our roads are freaking terrible here. That's what they inherited from Chip Ganassi Racing. So, they basically morphed the team into Trackhouse Racing, but it was a terrible team when they took it. So,
All right, Joe. My counter to that is just if I bought the state of Indiana, okay, and did what you said, the first thing I would realize is the roads are there. They just need repaired. We don't have to build the roads. So when Stackhouse came in, the infrastructure was there. It just needed major overhaul and repair, which is what they did. So, and I would love to buy the state of Indiana. I'd make it the greatest state in the nation.
it
That'd
already
be
is.
impossible.
I'd put you in charge of the Indiana State Police.
I wouldn't take that job.
I'd pay you out the ass.
While you guys talk about, the Oregon Trail, except in the Great Hoosier State, we're going to move on. And Steve, I think you would be perfect for this next question. Right now, we're seeing the top two teams in NASCAR really struggling back-to-back weeks. It's just a minor blip in the overall timeline where at the end of the year we'll forget all about this? Or is this more cause of concern going into the off week that maybe everybody else is coming forward and that these top two teams aren't as separated as they typically were before?
And I'm going to get some rebuttal on this, but no, I think it's more self-destructive of Joe Gibbs and Hendrick, really. I mean, I tried to find a headline for today's race. I couldn't come up with one. My headline ended up being first-time winner, takes another spot away. What do we got, 12 first-time winners now?
We got 12 winners. We have four
winners,
first-time
yeah.
winners.
We have what? How many? Well, no.
Winners.
How many?
12 overall.
How many winners? We have 12 overall winners. We have 4 spots left. That's probably the biggest headline, and the fact that Suarez wins his first race, and he's only the 5th foreign-born driver to ever win a NASCAR race. So that, and my second headline was just pit stops. They continue to plague this league across the board with these big teams. I mean, Kyle Busch is always complaining about his pit crew and screwing things up. I think right now Elliott's lost 2 to 3 races because of his pit crew. I mean, he lost today because of his pit crew. Not that saying a win's guaranteed, but he was sailing. I mean, he did not try and get stage points. He came in on the first stage with 2 laps left, both short, gassed up, went right to the front. Larson was mired back in 25th place, who was his biggest competitor at the time. They come in for a pit. The left rear tire changer flubs it up for the God knows how many a time. But this is getting to be too routine of a problem for these big teams. And you think of anybody, these guys should have the manpower to fix this problem. I liken it a little bit to Mercedes in F1 in that I do think people have caught them to some degree. I mean, Ferrari and Red Bull just caught Mercedes. But I'd say the minor mistakes being made by especially Hendrick are killing this team. I mean, same with Larson. Larson went down because the tire changer didn't get the slug on right, and the right front wheel falls off. Over the first right-hand turn. So I think it's more self-destructive than it is catching people up, although I do think teams are catching up to them slowly.
Yeah.
Can't hear you.
Hey, Ryan, you're Steve. I will add to that, and I do agree. I think teams are catching up with Hendrick and JGR. Last week I think we all sat here and thought that last week with Hendricks was a flop. Um, and this week they didn't really flop though. I mean, other than pit stops, they had Larson and Elliott both had their cars set up to win this race. We're gonna table it. Yeah, we're gonna table it for Wednesday, like Ryan said. But
Okay.
if it wasn't for pit stops and pit strategy, Kyle Larson's competing for a win at the end of this race. So,
so is Elliott. So is Elliott.
So is Elliott. I mean, Larson loses his front right tire after a pit stop when he's in the mix at that point. Elliott gets a pass or has a penalty that has to go to the end of the line
while he's leading.
I mean, while he's leading. I mean, there's some definite issues there that they're going to have to fix, and they've been bad in the pits all year long. This isn't even a car setup issue. Ryan, you got sound back on you? You do not. So while we're waiting for Ryan to come back, Steve, I think that one topic that I want to talk about is and I didn't know if we were going to get to it, is this was the last week for Fox's coverage, and know if Ryan had planned on talking about this, but what do you think are some things Fox can do heading into next season to make this season or make their coverage better next year?
More time to appropriately timed commercials. First off, I mean, I'm sick and tired of commercials when good racing's going on. They're in the middle of a good bump and grind type thing between drivers, and like, well, we're going to cut to the commercial right now. And occasionally they do this split screen thing, but I don't like that at all, because you're only hearing the commercial. You're not hearing the audio from the race. I think they need to make some manpower changes in the booth. I like their pit crew for all intent and purposes. I think Jamie Littles is very good at what she does. Walsh does a good job and an adequate job. So I don't think the changes are major. I don't think that what's his name, 15, Boyer has materialized like they hoped he would have. Kind of like me, just a little bit way too long-winded to be doing that, and too much into telling, obscure stories. I know I'm guilty of that, and I'm trying to work on that as hard as I can, but I am aware of it. So I think the best thing they can do is turn it over to NBC right now and let them take the rest of the year and see what they can do. I mean, they've got a quality team. I like Larry McReynolds in the booth. I don't understand why he's not up there every race. It may be a travel thing with him, where he just doesn't want to travel that often. So I don't know, Joe, but those are the things I think they could do, really. Better time commercials are the most important thing to me.
I agree.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Oh, Joe, one other thing that they really suck at, show the whole damn position of the whole field. They get to number 20 and they stop.
Oh, no, I agree.
And they don't. And see, I'm chasing Elliott, wanting to know where he's at. He got in the pit, got to go to the back of the longest line. And I want to see how he's coming up through the field if the guy's got a chance to get back into contention. And I pulled up my iPhone. I went to NASCAR.com and I put the live scoring on my phone and watched it, listened to it, the scoring from there.
Yeah, you almost have to do that.
You have to do that now. And you should not have to reach for your phone or go to another mode of communication to check the score and things of that nature, or the standings, or where everybody's positioned in the race. Just cycle through the whole field and keep it rolling. Put it somewhere and keep it rolling. So
I agree.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Long-winded. I apologize.
Now we'll let Ryan get back to his topics now he's back with us.
Yeah, go, Ryan.
Is he messing
with
frozen?
Us? Now he's frozen.
Oh man. Well, I'll say this, Steve. I have a list of things that I have kept through the last couple races and really throughout this season. And I agree with you for the most part. It seems like every time they cut to commercial, something happens. But I will tell you something that happened today on lap 48. Both Eric Jones and Ross Chastain spun out on lap 48. And when they spun out, Fox wasn't even at a commercial. It was showing Daniel Suarez with his amigos before the race, dancing and hanging out. I know that's a good little thing to show, but you took away
when
from
you're
the
in a
race
caution. When you're in a caution
right.
and they're just riding around,
right? The race is going on, and two cars spin out. You don't even know about it because you see it on a little split screen, and then they come back, and it takes them 2 minutes to even talk about why they lost the lap position.
And Joe, I think this is a great discussion for Wednesday's show because it fits right in there. And
I just
let me ask you one question. Let me ask you one question before we get off the subject of this. Did you watch the F1 race today?
I did.
When they took off and started till the checkered flag was waved, what did you not see?
I don't.
They don't have commercials in F1 races.
Oh yeah.
Watch it. They do not. They do not have commercials during the race. You see nothing but racing, as far as I remember. I don't ever remember seeing no commercials during the course of the race.
Well, so Steve, I'll be honest with you. I turned the F1 race on, and it was 2 laps in, and Verstappen, for whatever reason, was already fourth. So I still don't know what happened because I know he started on the pole. How he ended up fourth after?
No, he did not. Leclerc started on the pole.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Verstappen was out. Verstappen was outside row 1.
Okay, that makes better sense.
And then the other 2 Ferrari cars were 3 and 4.
I just took for granted Verstappen. I actually didn't know. I just took for granted
drivers.
Because he had the highest betting odds or the best betting odds. So
yeah,
I know we lost Ryan there, Steve, but right now let's talk about. Give me your final thoughts on the snooze fest of the race. We'll close out the show because we got a lot of good topics for Wednesday.
Well, I hope if there were first time watchers watching this, I enjoy the road course. I have been enjoying the road courses up until now. And if this new car, this is indicative of what the new car is going to produce on road courses, I'm not going to enjoy it. It's not going to be fun because this was reminiscent of an F1 race through and through. It was kind of a parade more than a race. There was very, I mean, Elliott had fresh tires. Well, Elliott had fresh tires. He had the best car throughout the whole day. And I'm looking back there. And when I finally turn on my leaderboard on my phone, he started at the end of the lead line, which I know there were some lap cars. So I figured he started around 30th. He had gotten to 26th with fresh tires and the best car on the track at that time, along with Larson. And he couldn't move up past anybody. It took him yellow flags to move back into the top 10. He didn't do that by driving his way through the rest of the field. He did that by going with a different pit strategy and moving himself up through pits. And that's how he did it. And that's why he had no go-go juice to get past 8th at the end, because he had shot his tires to Kingdom Come. But so I don't know if it's the car. I don't know. It's got to be the car because last year's
it's the combination.
Save Mart 300 was a great race. I mean, I remember it was bumping and banging and people getting a crap knocked out of them all over the place. Helmets flying at the end of the race. Go ahead.
It's a combination, I think, Steve. Which Chase Elliott did an incredible job coming all the way back up, getting in the top 10.
Yeah.
You actually have to hand it to him, and really got to hand it to Kyle Larson for.
It shows how good his car was.
But I think combination. I think that track is typically there's a lot of bumping and moving around, but that track is not conducive to passing anyway, only in a couple spots. And there's a lot of banging, and there was a lot of banging today. These cars are just so much more stout. And I think the other thing that plays a huge role into what caused the snooze fest today wasn't a snooze fest. COTA was a great race, but the speeds got a little bit higher, I think, at COTA, and there's a lot more straightaway speed coming into turns that are optimal for passing. There's not a lot of speed at this track. with being a short track, a 2 mile roads. But I think these cars, they keep saying these cars are so great in open air, right? They're so good when they're out front. Well, I think when you are running a road course race and there's a 2 or 3 second gap in between the first and second place and the second and third place vehicle, all these cars are essentially running in open air, and they can't catch up to each other. So if you're running and you're running that course the correct way, you're never going to catch the leader when he's in open air and nobody's around him. So I think it's a combination of both. I think it's a combination of the cars and how stout they are and how well they run in open air. And they got to rectify something before they go back to Sonoma next year, because if this is the race that they have again next year, I don't see fans tuning in to watch that again. We said it, I don't know how many times. It was terrible to watch today. The worst race of the year.
Yeah, I agree. I agree entirely. Yeah, and you would think that the stoutness of those cars would breed more bumping and fender tapping and get out of my way, moving people around. But you're right, they can't get to each other. These cars are just staying spread enough. I don't know if it's, like I said, I don't know if it's a diffuser or what it is causing turbulent air to allow people to not catch them. And when you're out front, you've got just total clean air, and they're running away with things like there's no tomorrow. And then, of course, the lead car can sit back. If he gets a 4 or 5 second lead, he can go soft on his tires. You didn't have to wear his tires into the ground and run the course so hard because he's got no competition behind him. When the next driver back is 3 to 4 seconds back. And that probably saved Suarez at the end because he got that big 4 second lead. And, then he can, because I'm sure his tires were rolled at that point in time. And he's working like hell, and Briscoe's coming after him, and boom. But he saved his tires enough that he had some left, at the end. So, yeah, this car is they got some things to figure out on the car still. But that's not to be unexpected.
And one last thing, Steve, before we close out the show, I want to apologize to everybody that reads my top 5 best bets every week and happens to those were absolutely terrible picks this week. I even put in the article, Steve, this week that the only thing that's ever guaranteed is Sonoma is going to be a great race. So I was even wrong about that this week in my article. I mean, I'd like to have that one back. But, it is what it is. You can't get a great race every week, and we certainly did not get one today. So I want to thank everybody for watching. This has been the NASCAR post-race show for the Toyota Save Mart 350. I'm Joe Spilman, along with Steve Risley, and we did have Ryan Peters, but he sees some technical difficulties.
We don't know where he is.
With you. Yeah, he just disappeared. We'll be back with you Wednesday. We're planning on 7 o'clock right now, but as of late, with everything going on, that normally gets changed to about 10. So we'll be with you between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, Truth is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding an online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. Steve, have a great night.